not be here. All right, so I think we're rolling. All right, so welcome to the Multifamily Meetup. Obviously, we usually do these in person, but today, since we're dealing with all this, we can't. So my name's Tio, full-time investor, retired engineer. I do hard money loans, fix and flips, rentals, Airbnbs, and I'm looking to buy and purchase more multifamily real estate investments. And that's my contact information. If anyone wants to ever reach out to me, there's myself and my Instagram, and I'd be glad to chat anytime. And then Nate, if you want to go next.
Yep, I am Nate Ganane. I'm also a full-time investor. I buy multifamily and rentals. Secondary, I buy fix and flips. And me and Tio both operate property management company. So same thing. If anyone has that, let us know. And always looking for more multifamily or flips at any time. Just reach out, text, call, or message me in any way.
Perfect. And next, I will go with who I got on my screen, and that is Eric. Just kind of keep it short and quick, 30 seconds, who you are, where you're from, and what you do. And we'll kind of run through the room real fast.
Okay. Eric Stevens from Sterling Heights, Michigan, so pretty local to the Detroit metro area. Just got my real estate license, and for this next year or so, I'm just trying to get my feet wet in just about every aspect I can to just kind of see where I want this career path to take me is the main thing. So I just want to soak up as much as possible and kind of see exactly where I want to fall within this real estate market.
Beautiful. Thanks for joining. Rob.
Make sure I unmute myself this time. I'm Rob, wholesaler for the last few years. I do have my license as well. I've got residential and commercial rentals, looking to add some more industrial rentals for this year.
Beautiful. Steve.
Hi, I'm Steve, and I'm in the Metro Detroit area. And I was in real estate about 10 years ago, got out of it, just have a handful of properties, got back into it last year, and just did a couple of flats over the year. And with the pandemic, kind of in a holding pattern and trying to figure out which direction to go, considering getting my real estate license, but I haven't decided on that either. So I guess, just kind of getting back into it and kind of determining a path down the road.
Beautiful. Patrick. Oh, we can't hear you. We can't. Can you guys hear him?
Nope.
All right. Oh,
There.
You hear me
the
now?
noise.
yeah.
There you are.
All right, cool. I guess I have to keep it posted. But 22-year-old, live in New York, just got my license about a month ago. Also making a company with my friends, so that's where I'm at. Really trying to, like Eric, get my feet wet. So.
Cynthia.
Hi, I'm extremely new to all of this. I haven't done any real estate investing, so I've been doing a lot of reading, and I've been on a couple of private Facebook pages on real estate investing, and I saw Teo's post today, and so I thought I'd hop on the call. My next purchase is going to be in Florida, and I'm not sure if I want to buy something that would be like a part-time place where I live and part-time renting it out like an Airbnb, or if I'm just going to buy something else to be a rental and continue to stay in Denver. So
Beautiful.
I'm exploring.
Chat about that some more. Safe.
Good afternoon. Safe Siddiqui, Metro Detroit area as well. Apartment complex investor. I'm just looking to add some more units here.
Zabe. You're muted, buddy.
Can you hear me?
No, you're good. Zabe.
Okay. Gotcha.
Zaid Kassab, I'm a real estate investor and also agent. We do flips and rentals. Right now, looking to head over to the multifamily more, and also looking for deals all the time in Metro Detroit area. Also, since Tio and Nathan, I believe they talked about they're doing property management. I'm looking for property management and hard money lenders.
We got you, my man. Warren, you want to go next?
Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Warren Marshall. I am an aspiring full-time investor, not there yet, but do short-term rental, do long-term rental, pursuing some vacation rentals right now. And then also I'm here tonight just kind of looking for a mentor, but also looking for some people to potentially partner with in the future.
Beautiful. Sahil?
Well, I'm looking, guys, I'm totally opposite from you guys. I'm from Canada, moving to States 2 years down the road. And I know Theo, I'm following him from a long time. I'm in the financial industry, but as looking at him and other people, I'm getting excited towards real estate. So here to get more knowledge to move in and have good friendship with all you guys.
Beautiful. Freddie? Oh, you're muted, bud.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Freddie Polanco. I'm actually now just full-time investor. I used to work in politics, was a political director for an international organization, and I'm so happy I'm not doing politics today. So I have a lot of rentals and been doing some flips and just trying to continue getting smarter. I remember you guys were talking earlier about helping each other, and I gotta say, Theo and Nate always being there whenever I have a question. So I want to thank you guys publicly here.
Anytime, man. Always here to help. Jamie.
Hey, Jamie LeClaire here. Rochester, Michigan, Metro Detroit. I'm a wholesaler. I've got 14 units. I'm looking to double my portfolio this year, buy and holds. Not huge on flips, but just not really all that experienced. And I'm really, really good at marketing, wholesaling.
Beautiful. Roger. And before I go to Roger too, like make sure you kind of take notes on who everyone is and what they do, so that way you guys can connect after, right? It's the whole point of this is to get relationships out of here. Roger, you want to go ahead? Quick intro. Oh, you're muted, man. Yep, still muted. I'll go to Ahmed next, and then if you kind of figure that out, we'll come back to you.
Good afternoon. My name is Ahmed Sarafi, Southern California Real Estate Investment Development, and I am here to be of service and learn how to do some goal planning with Tony.
Tim.
Hello.
Oh, we'll go to Roger. Go ahead. You muted yourself again.
You ready for me, Theo?
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hello.
Tim Wild, Metro Detroit. I live in Shelby. Big on flips. Don't have any or have ever had any multifamily. Just been starting to look into that. I've got an Airbnb up north, which is great. We use it to vacation, and then we rent the crap out of it when we're not there. Pays for it. Looking for another one of those in Florida very soon. Something off market, hopefully. I like partnerships. Most of my flips are partnerships. I'll partner with almost anybody. We're big on that. 1, 2, 3, sometimes 4 people. Spread out the the risk. And Rob was talking on here. I'd like to get on his list if possible. And then those couple new agents, once you guys figure out that you hate your brand new brokerage, give me a shout. We're looking for people, and my brokerage is all investment related and driven. So
drop your info in the comments.
What do I do? Yeah, I'll do that right away.
All right. Michael.
Hey, sorry. Yeah, it was a typo. It's just normal, Michael. So I'm licensed in Hawaii. I have a management company. We manage about, I've got 3 million assets under management. Currently active duty. You can see my uniform. I'm in the Navy. Right this second, I'm in California, just doing something with work. And our goal is to move to Washington. We'll start syndicating multifamily property in Washington State.
Beautiful.
Just, yep, here to help or answer any questions.
Thomas. You're muted, by the way. I'll run to Roger. You can unmute yourself and do a quick intro. You're still muted. All right, we'll go to Andrew K.
What's up, guys? Andrew Kuntz, Macomb County, Clinton Township. Brand new into the whole real estate investing. Just closed my first deal last month. Kind of intrigued by the multifamily, just kind of hanging around to soak it all up.
Beautiful. Chuck.
Hi guys, this is Chuck Benoff. I'm just starting out looking at multifamilies. A friend of mine sent me this your cast here tonight, so I just thought I'd stop by and listen in. Thanks.
Awesome. Brandon. You're muted. We'll go to Travis.
Hey, good evening. I'm Travis, 29, Metro Detroit area. Very green, just looking to kind of learn and absorb everything I can. I run a small investment group that mainly focuses on equities right now, and we're looking to get started into real estate and kind of trying to get into some lending opportunities. So just trying to network and learn at this point. But.
Cool. Thank you, Jones. And Blair.
Hey you guys, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hello, I'm Blair Clark. I'm in Macomb County. I live in Mount Clemens. I had a duplex for a few years, but I feel like I just broke into the multifamily space. We closed on a 5-unit at the end of December. And so my husband and I, we fix and flip, and our strategy is to build capital from that to purchase multifamily. And I learned that strategy from Mr. Nate Ganane. So thank you for teaching me that like 2 years ago. And so, yeah. And so, of course, at the onset of the new year, you've got all sorts of goals and strategies. So that's why I'm super interested to be on tonight. Just hoping to learn how to set my 2021 goals.
Beautiful. And was there anyone that didn't go? Did I miss?
Hey, I can jump in. I apologize, you guys missed me. Brandon Breward, I'm actually a school teacher and just really started getting interested on real estate on the side here. Haven't jumped in anything yet, but I'm starting some direct mail marketing and some skip tracing. I'm looking at like small apartment units. So we'll see where that takes me.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Those first few mailers. Let me know if you need any hands, any help with them.
Thanks.
Lots of excitement that goes on there. And next we'll go to Tony. What do you think, Tony? Did I do a good job with your slide?
Man, that's a good photo. So at least it's really me actually. See, good stuff. Yeah. I'm a business coach. I guess rather than reading the bullets, I'll introduce you guys. I'm in Houston, Texas, and my background that's not on this slide is that I spent 25 years working in oil and gas, engineering degree, project manager. I was managing usually between $200 to $500 million joint venture projects, international. And I'm a project manager at heart, which really kind of goes back into what we're talking about tonight as goal setting. And for me, as a small business owner, I started businesses as early as 1996 online. I built one in 2001, scaled that one out to multiple 7 figures. And it was an online automotive community. I'm a car guy, and I built an online community that grew to 300,000 registered members. And I duplicated that same business model in the truck market and built a performancetrucks.net website, which grew to just over 200,000 members when I sold it. And I exited those for a couple million. And that was a fun experience to go through that because I did that all while working a full-time job. So that's why they called me the side hustle millionaire. It's kind of a catchy phrase on things going on right now, but that's the truth of the story. And I built retail companies. My wife is a realtor, so I'm a little bit involved in that business as well, building that out for the last 4 years. And I'm not doing flips yet, but hey, I'm here to learn too. So that'd be interesting as well. So nowadays I speak and I've got a large crew. I recognize a lot of faces in here that are in my group, and do the podcasting and meet some really amazing people and build a network of just some awesome powerhouses out there and doing all kinds of amazing things in the world. And I've gotten to know Teo a couple of years now with the Arate Syndicate, a group that we were mutually in, and before he joined my group. And happy to share because I'm very organized, and I would say that I'm very patient for results. I'm very aggressive with actions, but patient for results. That's the best way to describe me. I've always been a patient person for the results, although I put in a lot of work. And I hear a lot of people with anxiety and overwhelm, and I don't have those. And it's because I've learned how to control my time and my life and my schedule. And when you do things at a very high level of detail, such as project management, managing 9-figure company, joint ventures, you kind of have to use these tools and these mindsets to get away from the overwhelm and the anxiety and all these different things that people struggle with. I find that a lot of that's just formed by disorganization in their life somehow. So that's what I'm here to help you guys kind of come up with some goals and use some tools to get you there.
Awesome. And I can stop sharing this, and then I guess you have the floor, Tony.
Awesome. Well, I've got this slideshow, and it's normally an hour, but I'm going to cut through to the main points of it. It's time relevant. But before I jump into that, I guess I can get it started here.
I think you should have access, to share.
Yeah, so here we go. So typically this is what I would do at a corporate level in time versus task management, and pretty boring subject, let's be honest. Nobody likes to talk about time and task management, but it's very important when we talk about how goals are and what we're going to do for 2021. Here's a tip on me. Like, wherever you are currently at in your situation in life right now, whether it's financial or business or fitness or anything that's involved with your life right now, you got to realize that if you're going to take full accountability, that you have to understand that everything that you are today is based on decisions you made years ago, right? We always think about New Year's resolutions, and I never want to hem and haw and discourage people from setting New Year's resolutions, but I tend to set 3 years ahead resolutions. So I actually made a post the other day. I said, I love New Year's resolutions. I'm planning 2024 right now. And when you think about that, it's because while a lot of people, I'm sure that you guys are high performers in your own regard, but a lot of people are not willing to acknowledge their current situation that is based on their decisions made years ago that led them to this point. And when you understand that, initially some people feel defensive about hearing that. Well, screw you, Tony. I'm not, you want to have the blame and all these different things going on. That's fine. You're probably holding yourself accountable at a lower standard than most people that are high performers. So you should also find comfort in knowing that your situation exists based on your decisions years ago, because then you get to have the power over that of what's going to happen in the next few years. So I always try to plan out really far in advance, and I have this project management mind so I can understand that goals are just like projects, right? We have time and task management of projects. Small business, anything that you're building, or your fitness, whatever that is, that end result is the project deliverable. It's what is it that I'm going to create? What is the level of expectations on quality? What is the levels of expectations on the measurables of success, whether it's a financial number or a door count or whatever you guys are working on towards? So if I can envision what that looks like, and I can give myself a set schedule, is it really realistic? Is it something that's possibly going to happen? Do I have enough financial and human resources to be able to make this happen? And so I break things down into a very methodical way of just looking at the individual steps. And by putting these things on an actual schedule or an Excel spreadsheet or however you want to use that tool, you start to focus on what is that one thing that you have to do step by step to get there to deliver that. And you're going to find the bottlenecks. You're going to find the inefficiencies, just like project managers do. You guys deal with project managers with your builds and flips. You understand this process, but most people don't learn how to visualize their priorities as tasks. And a lot of times when we're not writing down things and we're not scheduling things properly and seeing where we can do two things at once, or we can double up the resources here, or contract some of these things out, it starts to create that overwhelm, because a lot of times you're trying to remember all this crap and you're thinking months in advance and you're losing focus on what you should be working on today in this very moment. So I live my life based on a schedule, just based on 20 plus years of doing that. And it became my life. I'm so grateful that I got that opportunity to do that. And I wasn't in engineering design and just working on design alone. So being a project manager, I apply those same principles to success, to fitness, to just anything that is important to my life and my businesses. And that's why it's become so calm. And it takes a certain type of mindset and really character to manage those big stressful contracts. And I'll tell you that I've had some of my industry peers that were just always stressed out, and they were just frantic, and you could just see that they're nervous all the time, and they're angry all the time. They have a lot of emotional, lack of control. And I always made my job like really easy. And people would sometimes, mistake that for me maybe not performing at a high level. But when the numbers always came out, I always outperformed everybody, and I made it look really easy. It's because I learned how to, one, control my emotions, right? There was a lot of things going on. We kind of touched on politics and things that were firing it up, but understand that emotional energy is wasted when there's no action. When there's no possible action, it's emotional energy, it's wasted. And even on the smallest scale, like think about like road rage. When you're out there and somebody cuts you off and you get angry and you start shouting at your windshield and you're honking the horn, and is it really going to change the outcome? The person already cut you off. They probably don't even hear you anyways. They didn't see you, obviously, because they just cut in your lane. But here you are expending emotional energy and anger, and it's really setting your emotional state for the rest of the day. A lot of times people commute into traffic and they get to work and they're just disheveled and they're just upset, and they're like, oh, some asshole cut me off and this and that. And they let it ruin like half their day until lunchtime. And it always fascinated me is like, why these people not have the emotional control over themselves? Because I get it. A lot of times people get into aggressive state. Everybody feels like they're invincible behind their steering wheel or on the keyboard, and they become bigger than they truly are. And they feel like they've got this boundary between them. And it's just not the case. So I always think about like, it's okay to feel anger. Like nobody likes to be cut off. Nobody likes to see people driving like jerks on the freeway. But is your emotional balance, is your energy state really worth investing into something that's beyond your control? And for me, that's no. And that's what awareness is. We see that a lot. So how can I insert a split second of awareness and then create the proper reaction? So you may feel anger. You may be feeling like something happened to you in any regard. You maybe see some news headline and it makes you feel an emotional thing. That's fine. That means you're not a psychopath or have no emotions. You'll feel that. But what most people lack is they go into the knee-jerk reaction, and they have an emotional reaction to something rather than just going, what's the context? Is this something I actually can control? And if not, then I'm going to give a proper response. And as a project manager, if somebody that's building some massive things, trying to do some amazing things, I can't afford to allow my emotions to dictate my actions. And that's the one thing that I could teach right there that's very important. And I think a lot of people fail. So Nick, I'm going to challenge you, if you guys are in those situations, when you go forward and you have these things that create an adverse reaction emotionally, stop in that moment. You got to learn to catch yourself in that moment and go, hey, is there something I can control? And if the answer is no, then you need to give the proper response and start with the road rage things, or start with the things that annoy you, and just start to catch yourself in those littlest things. And when you start to do that, you'll be able to condition yourself to insert that moment of awareness before you react. And that's going to change your life and your emotional state, make you have a lot happier life. I mean, there's so many things out there beyond our control. And, I just learned not to really invest my emotional capital in that, because I need to use that energy for the things that are being constructive and productive for what I'm building. And, for example, I was on my group call the other night, and we all saw the nonsense that was going on at the Capitol building and just ruckus that was going on earlier last week. And, one of my, the clients in the room said, well, what did you think about that, Tony? And I said, well, I didn't agree with it. First of all, I thought it was kind of just nonsense. I understand why people did it, but I didn't feel any emotion about it. I mean, we've seen a lot of hatred and division that went on all over the last year. And I was like, you know what, it's a new year and I don't want to invest my time into that stuff. So while I observe it and I can have a judgment about it, I didn't feel any emotion about it, because I've learned to go, is that something I can control? No, it's not. Then why am I going to be so upset about it and go sharing around and ranting and doing all these things when I need to be using that energy to be focused on something that's going to help? So that's kind of the lead into getting away from the anxiety and the negative energy that's going to dictate your actions, which creates the overwhelm, and it creates the stress, and it creates the fear that a lot of people are living with right now. And I've learned to disconnect that kind of thing. And I think it's important to understand that, because when we're trying to get ahead in life, we need to be focused on that one thing that's going to move ahead. So let me go through some of these slides and get to a point here. Normally, I would talk about hard truth regarding time, categorizing tasks, defining your priority. I'll be happy to share you guys this slideshow after we you know, you guys get with Tio, and I'll send these things to him so you don't have to take a whole bunch of notes. I want you guys to be more focused on what we're doing, and instead of looking down at your piece of paper. So I'll send you the transcript and everything of this because it's pretty cool. So, you know, time management. So for me, let's get on the same page regarding time. We all have our beliefs when it comes to managing time, but my belief is that as much as we talk about time management, I don't believe in it, because think about this: time keeps moving regardless of what we tell it to do. There's no stopwatch to pause your life. And if you decide to slow down your progress or speed up your progress, it doesn't matter. Time just operates in the background independently, and it's always at its own pace. So we understand that it's independent. We can't control it. We should reframe our mindset into task management instead. We can certainly manage tasks, and we can also manage our daily schedules, but we just can't simply manage time itself. So the number one excuse that most people use when not wanting to pursue their own potential in business or personal development is the common phrase, "I don't have time." We all think we're too busy. These excuse makers, they somehow believe that everyone else in the world must have more time than they do. It's the same 24 hours that we all have. So people blame their spouse, they blame their children not having time. They just think it's another common excuse. It's shared back and forth among those who aspire to be average in life. Okay. So when two average people share excuses, they generally just accept those excuses because they use the same ones themselves. And these repeated excuses just form their subconscious beliefs, and then they start to self-justify their own situation. So they say things like, "Tony, I can't start a business. I have 2 kids and a dog. I have a full-time job." Or they say, "Tony, I can't go to the gym. I can't take care of, I take care of my elderly dad and I go to school." Or they say, "Tony, I have time to read and study those courses, but I travel a lot of work, for work, and I can't get all this done." And these people do not realize that the thousands of people in similar situations as them, sometimes even worse situations, did exactly what these people claim that is so seemingly impossible. So lack of time is rarely the problem. We find that it's generally a lack of effort or a lack of priorities. So I'm going to teach you a little mindset shift here. So we all know it's a lot easier to sit around and waste time, complain, and instead of doing the work. And the thing is that the things that you're doing today are your priorities. We just don't call them priorities. The fact is that whatever you're doing or spending time or wasting time on is your priority. And if you want to gain some awareness of areas where you're wasting time, start calling those things and those tasks your priorities. So some examples that kind of sound funny, but it's true. Watching TV for a couple hours each night is my priority. Would you say that to yourself? Would you say this? Would you say surfing Facebook for a couple hours daily is my priority? Or maybe playing video games for a few hours per week is my priority. Or maybe even have eating unhealthy and gaining weight is my priority. Or maybe you have this one: tolerating my job and refusing to find a better opportunity is my priority. And I know Tio is smiling on that one because he did that recently, and we were holding him accountable on that in our group. And I'm proud of him. He stepped out and did things on his own, and now he's changed his entire life. So these statements, they sound weird, don't they? They sound funny, and no one ever claims that things are their priority, but whatever we spend time on is our priority. So if saying those phrases makes you feel a bit of pain, then you should pay attention to that. If the pain and the defensiveness that you feel is an indicator of, could you be using that time a little bit more productively? So today we're going to learn a little bit about how to properly categorize tasks, identify priorities, and learn how to use a schedule. So let's go to this one. So this is the 80-20 rule. You probably heard about that, where it's not something to gloss over. I've seen this thing appear so many times in my life, whether in a group. I actually talked about it in my group tonight. I said, I do these live calls Saturday night, and only 10% of the people always show up. So it's even worse than the 20 rule. But we spend too much time focusing on the 80% of the effort, and we're only, a lot of the times only the 20% section gives you the results. So what are the things in the 20% section that can move the needle, get you closer to your goals? We should be spending more time on those little things that make big differences in the goals that we're trying to achieve, and less time on the distractions, which is the 80%, the noise, which only results in 20% of the actual results. So when you understand this diagram, just kind of keep in your head, it's always the 80-20 rule. It's called Pareto's principle. And 80%, and the way that the rule states is 80% of the results are created by 20% of the actions. That's the easy way to remember that. So let me think. Here's some examples I can share that put this into context. So a phrase would be 80% of the company's sales revenue comes from the top 20% of salespeople. That's pretty accurate when you look at different sales organizations. Another one would be 80% of our profits come from only 20% of our products. We've seen that time and time again, where they have a staple product that everybody's buying, and then they just build a bunch of other categories and verticals, and they just kind of fill in the gaps. But 80% of the profits come from only 20% of the products. Another one would be 80% of the wealth in this region is owned by 20% of the people. We've seen that in the election year. We talk about all these wealthy people becoming wealthier and middle class diminishing. So again, 80-20 just seems to rear its ugly head in all different types of scenarios. So it's just a good rule to understand. When I go create an online course or webinar, I'll have 100 people sign up and 20 people will actually show up. So it's kind of that 80-20 rule. It just keeps showing up over and over and again. We do these video challenges and things in my group, and 100 people was like, yeah, I want to do this. It's going to be a video every day for the month. And by the end, I know Tio, he's a beast. He does like every day. He's like one of the leaders in that group. But Tio, like people will just fall off. And it's like when we finish them, the people are actually still checking in. It's about 20% on every challenge we've ever done. It's just like clockwork. So everybody talks a big game, but only 20% of the people actually follow through. And that really starts to show up in different areas of their life. And it's the same thing over and over and over. If you can just outlast people, you'll get a bigger result just by just knowing that 80% are going to quit. That's a huge advantage for me being a business owner, because I can just outlast people. I'm very patient. Like I said, I can be methodical about what I'm doing and just go, hey, I just got to last 6 months. I only have to deal with 10% of the competition at that point, and I can go from there. So that happens a lot in our lives. So here's how we call this the Eisenhower matrix. So we've seen this as typically how we would categorize our tasks. When people give you a task or something comes up, you look at it and go, how urgent is it, or how important is it? And you kind of just put them in one of these 4 boxes. So what you might find inside those boxes would be the do's, the high urgency, high importance, things that are crises or emergencies. You got tenants calling you, a pipe busted, whatever. Those are things we got to get done right away, right? No matter what. So we got to do those. Then we think about the low urgency and the high importance. We think, okay, what is important in your life? Exercise, planning, preparation. They're not like super urgent, but they're important. You still got to exercise. You got to plan. You got to prepare. You got to do things to create prevention or risk mitigation. The orange box, we delegate these things. So that's someone else's problem. It's low importance and it's high urgency, but is it something I can delegate? Administrative tasks, meetings. Not all meetings are worthwhile. A lot of them are a waste of time. And the ones that you want to delete are the distractions, some of the emails and calls that come in, and busy work. These are things that make you think like you're doing something, and you pat yourself on the back and you go, okay, I did it. And I was so busy today, but you didn't really do anything because you did a bunch of tasks versus actually the things that are going to move the needle closer to what you want to achieve. So whenever we do these things, we got to ask ourselves, will this task help me achieve my long-term goal? Or does this task align with my core values? A lot of times if they don't make that sniff test, they don't even belong on your list anyway. So we got to be wary also of false urgency. Sometimes our distractions can create a false urgency. Example would be when you're focused on an important task and you forgot to turn the ringer off, and that ringing phone may seem urgent, but it's really not. So the same goes for notifications on your emails and texts. Ahmed, you need to turn those off because I heard them on your computer when you introduced yourself. I don't have any notifications or a ringer on or any of that crap, nothing popping on my screen. I'm hyper focused on what I'm working on, because to me, texts and phone ringing are somebody else's problem, trying to make that my problem. They're trying to make my priority. So as much as it's an endorphin release, oh, I feel super important. Somebody sent me an email. Oh, I feel super important. Somebody tagged me on Facebook. Oh, I feel super important. The phone is ringing. These are conditioned endorphin releases that we believe are important, but they're really distractions. Okay. So I don't have any lights beeping, buzzing, anything on my phone. Typically I have my ringer off. And here's how I do it. Is like when I'm at my computer, when I can take calls, I basically just have my phone sitting next to the keyboard face up so I can see it ring, but I don't have to hear it. So if I happen to be available for taking calls, my phone is face up. And if I see it ring, I can decide in that moment, do I need to take that call? Should I take that call? If not, then I just let it ring or I send it to voicemail. Now, anytime I'm focused on other things, that phone is face down and I don't hear it. I don't see it. I don't even know what's going on. And I'm okay doing follow-ups on calls rather than making their problem my priority. See, this is how you start to control your time and create boundaries that keep you from being distracted. So don't think about false urgency from notifications and all that shit. Like, you got to train yourself when you're especially managing big projects. I was copied to the world, guys. I had a team of 75 people, international, different time zones. And I get copied on everything because I was the boss. You think I have time to go in the email box and read all this stuff that I'm copied to and think that it's equally important as the things I needed to do? No. So what I did to manage that was like, okay, my email box, I'm going to check it twice a day. I'm going to give it 2 hours a day because I had a lot of volume. So I said, okay, I don't even like to look at the email inbox the first thing in the morning. I wait till 10 a.m., right? Because if anything's urgent, they're going to call you and 911 you or whatever. They're going to try to there's ways to get a hold of you if things are urgent. And that's good. Have that channel of communication, have that process defined for your team. But I don't get into the inbox until 10 a.m. because the inbox is other people's problems. That's not my problems. That's other people's problems. And when you want to wake up and get in there at 7 a.m. and look at your inbox, the very first thing, you're adopting your other people's problems as your own. It's going to change your emotional state. It's going to create a lack of focus. So what I did is I said, I'll 10 a.m. I'll look at the inbox for the first time and I'll look at it for 1 hour. Hopefully I can get through it really quick and maybe I can get back to what I need to be focused on, get out of other people's problems. And then I would also do it between 3 and 4 p.m. in the afternoon. So I would put those on my schedule, email review, right? So you got to start to time block these things if you want the goals to achieve. So this is the kind of things that you got to do to keep your sanity is what it is I need to be like, I'm not going to do this. I don't want these stupid things bumping and beeping and buzzing and all these things. And I get it. Like in real estate, maybe you're waiting on that deal or contract to come through. But you know that that's in that, just that small window. So you can allow that to happen on that day. Right. But then you need to go back to your schedule when you're not expecting those hot items. So that's the way to condition your email box. Stay out of that, train yourself to keep out of that until you start to control that. So now this box we see the prioritizing of the box, what we're missing is a third axis. And this is another thing most people think, and I learned this from a book and I'll show you that in a second. But what it is we got those same box, urgency versus importance. That's typical how people delegate or classify their priorities. But what we want to do is add in the third axis, which is significance. Okay. So the significance is something that I learned from a book called Procrastinate on Purpose. I don't know if you guys can see this. Yeah. Procrastinate on Purpose by Rory Vaden. And if someone could write that in the notes, that'll be handy for everybody to have. But Procrastinate on Purpose, if you can look it up, it's on Amazon. And I really enjoyed this because Rory talks about how procrastination is actually a strategic advantage a lot of times. A lot of times being first to the market and things like that don't really pay dividends. Sometimes it's better to be second because you can see all the screw ups that the first version came out and you think about how can I improve that? And that procrastination, that second to market actually was an advantage. So there's a lot of examples of those kind of things. But when we're doing time and task management, what we're missing is that third axis, which is significance. So when you get a task, you need to ask yourself some things. And so let me give you the ideas here. So sometimes with tasks we consider unimportant actually have significant impacts on our long-term goals. Sometimes this makes them increase in priority rather than something that we should delay. So example of that is maybe visiting the gym would be one example. For most, it's a low priority to go to the gym. We get busy and we sacrifice the gym time. Well, this could have a significant impact on your health if you kept up this bad habit of skipping the gym for over a year. Another example would be blocking out time to maybe write your book. I wrote a best-selling book that I mentioned. So the task, it doesn't seem like it's that urgent. Write 1 hour per day may seem minor, but that book could actually be the one thing that changes your entire career trajectory and the fortune that you're creating. So the potential significance of that non-urgent task may place it ahead of other tasks within the same quadrant. It might even move it higher on the quadrant list. So we need to consider the urgency, the importance, and the significance of each task in order to properly categorize them. So let's think about that. This is from The One Thing. You guys in real estate, Jay Papa's son, Gary Keller. I actually interviewed Jay Papa's son, the real author of this book, one of the vice presidents of Keller Williams. And this is very much a thing a lot of people do is we have these, times where it's like, I've been busy, and you think that you've been busy and you're doing these tasks, but being productive is important to focus on. Most people mistake the word being busy with being productive. They often think that's interchangeable, but they're not. So you can be busy doing all the wrong tasks all day long, checking off all the done boxes, giving yourself a tiny dose of those endorphins again every time you check a box. Then you realize that you haven't really accomplished much at the end of the day, even after you felt like you were busy all day. Though at the end of the day, you might not even be closer to your goals. And that's because you fall into the trap of thinking busy is the same thing as being productive when it isn't. So when we're often, on the tasks that we want to work on, we don't focus on the things that we should work on. We always do the things we like to do instead of the things we should do. And it's often those tasks that we procrastinate or we feel anxiety or discomfort about, which tend to be the most important to complete. Isn't that funny how we procrastinate and we get anxiety and we feel uncomfortable about doing things, we put it off? Because we usually know the gravity of that task is the biggest thing we need to accomplish to move to the next level. And so we put it off and we try to do all these little things to keep ourselves busy and occupied and make us feel good. And one of the funniest things is that I remember early on in my career, I would actually do a couple of tasks at work and they wouldn't be on my to-do list. So I'd actually write them on my to-do list. After I already did them, I'd write them on there and check them off so I could go, oh, I did that task today and I'd feel better. I got that endorphin relief. So we spend our entire life just building these little to-do lists and adding shit on there that we've already accomplished that doesn't even matter, but because we wanted to convince ourselves we were so busy, we did so many things. And I think everybody's kind of laughing because we've probably been guilty of that. We just put something on there and put the check box. So we got to quit living those check box lives and think about that. And the thing about the one thing, this book is an incredible book, is that Gary Keller and Jay Papasan, they don't believe in priorities with an S. It's not plural. They think of it as one priority. So what is that one thing that you should be doing in this moment that's going to move you closest to your goals? So that's the big thing of that book. So remember that 80-20 rule I talked about? Well, that one thing is that 20% thing that will often yield 80% of your results. So as a business owner, we can use another method of identifying tasks, and it's based on that quadrant system. So there's another way to also classify each of the tasks that we do. We get kind of buried in. So here's what we do. We have CEO, president, executive level tasks. We have manager level tasks. We have technician level tasks. And we also have administrative tasks. So as a leader, you need to understand that the difference between these four groups of tasks, but we often end up doing all of them for ourselves. We don't build enough team. We don't build enough support. We maybe have that limited mindset that you shouldn't be paying somebody, for something you can do yourself. I literally knew people that made millions of dollars that were still mowing their yard, and always blew my mind. It's like, I hated mowing the yard. I did it my whole life. I started making enough money to hire that out. It's like I got 3 hours back on the weekends, and you can't convince me that mowing the yard is like enjoyable. I can think of a million other things I'd rather be doing than mowing the yard. So these are the kind of things we get in trouble with being entrepreneurs and business owners. So when you understand the simple math, think about what your hourly rate is, right? You're a business owner, you're building things. What is your hourly rate? What is it worth to you? And when you start to think about that, what salary would you pay someone to do that, to be your replacement? If you need to understand what that hourly rate is, what would you hire someone to do your job? How much would you pay them? Well, divide that by 52 weeks and 40 hours and you come out at your hourly rate. So look at that rate, whatever that is. You may have it in your mind, and maybe it's $25 or maybe it's $50, maybe it's $150, maybe it's $500. I'm a coach. I get paid $750 an hour nowadays. So if I'm paying myself $750 an hour based on the clients I'm serving, why would I go do something that I could pay somebody $5 an hour to do? Why am I going to do that? So you got to think about that. So what happens is if you're supposed to be making money, you're flipping buildings and doing all these things and your hourly rate's really high. Let's say you're at $200 an hour. Would you pay somebody $200 an hour to do your administrative tasks? No, you wouldn't. You'd be like, hey man, I'm going to get a $10 to $15 person out here to do these things. Maybe a virtual assistant that works overseas that's really educated, can do it for $5 an hour. And what it is you're basically overpaying yourself. You're basically the highest paid administrative staff that's not even very good at your job. Okay. That's the best way you think about this. You're overpaying yourself and you're not as good as somebody that does it all the time, but you're still thinking that you're busy. This is how you start to scale your team. And, it's good to understand the task, but it's good to get those delegated off and understand how the categories fit. Is this a CEO level task? honestly, of a business owner, you should only be using those top two. You should only be focused on the manager tasks and the CEO level tasks. Everything else you should be delegating, farming out, or trying to fire yourself from doing those as soon as possible. A lot of times people go, well, Tony, I don't have money in my business and I can't afford that. Well, you can't not afford that because you're basically, like I said, you're an ineffective, overpaid version of the bottom two, right? So you're actually costing your company a lot more money than hiring somebody. That's the way you got to think about this kind of stuff. So fire yourself, you know, that's the best way to think about that. Now let's talk about this thing, delegate what you hate. You know, we discussed task importance, urgency, and significance, pay scales, but there's one thing is we need to think about what our energy level is related to each task. So does the task bring you energy? Does it charge you up to do? Does it task suck the energy from you? Or do you consider the task neutral, something that you can tolerate, but you don't necessarily love? For every task you hate, there's someone out there that would love to do that task for you. We're all wired a little differently. And, you know, the time that you waste working on tasks that suck the life out of you will affect your overall performance and your mindset. You won't be able to do those tasks as well, especially if you dislike them. And you've got to learn to delegate what you hate. Just remember that phrase, delegate what you hate. Sometimes that means hiring an employee. Sometimes that means bringing on a strategic partner that loves doing the stuff that you hate to do. And we should really focus on tasks that either bring us energy or we consider neutral, which also would limit our times doing the things we dislike. So successful people, we just learn to say no. We say no a lot. We're all people pleasers. We want to give value, but you know, people pleasers actually struggle the most with saying no. They like to tell everybody yes. So it's like a knee-jerk reaction. We want others to be happy, and we would never want to hurt anyone's feelings. And so we say yes a lot, and we say yes a lot more than we can afford to do. And it's no wonder why we seem to never have time. We overcommit to everybody else's goals, but we forget to focus on our own goals. So realize that this one important thing, every time you say yes to someone else, you're saying no to yourself. Every single time you say yes to someone else, you're saying no to yourself. In order to achieve your goals, you're going to have to give yourself permission to be selfish with your time and attention. Everyone else is out there working towards their own goals. When someone asks you for something, they're asking you to contribute to their goals. So you have to learn how to say no to tasks, offers, and opportunities that do not align with your goals. But you don't have to be rude. There's polite ways of doing this. We can say yes to the person, but no to the request. So let me give you an example of that. Let's say somebody emails you a copy of their latest project proposal and asks you to review it and share some advice. You've already got a tight schedule. You know this request would take you a couple hours and it doesn't contribute to your goals. It would actually distract you. So a polite way to respond would be to acknowledge the receipt of the request and then thoughtfully explain why you must decline the request. And it could sound something like this. Tio, congrats on achieving that milestone and progress on your project. I'm honored that you would think of me and value my opinion on this. In order to honor my prior commitments, I will unfortunately not be able to take on this request. I do appreciate hearing from you. Best regards. So this is an example of saying yes to Tio by acknowledging his progress and effort. Then you say no to the request, because you must honor your prior commitments and nobody's going to argue about that. So it's a polite rejection and it doesn't hurt any feelings. And don't say things like check back with me later or let me take a rain check or perhaps I can do it next month. If you truly do not wish to do it and it's not your priority, you must learn to focus, learn to master saying no. So to-do lists, these are the things that we use for tools, right? That's a beginner level. Daily journaling, good for daily, bad for planning longer because you're always having to like move things over to the next page. Gmail calendars where I kind of hang out. I actually work it pretty well because it's always on my phone. It integrates with a lot of the popular apps out there that put things like the Calendly links and things like that. Outlook's very similar to Gmail. It's whatever your email is based on. So Calendly.com, I would say that's very important for people that are scheduling meetings and appointments because you could just send them a link and they could go look at your calendar that you've set up and they can select the right time to be able to do the communications. So with that, social media and tracking apps again. So here's some books that I mentioned earlier. So The One Thing, Gary Keller and Jay Papasan, I would recommend these for everybody. Everybody should know these books, The Procrastinate on Purpose. And with that, we can get into some Q&A if you'd like.
Man, that was amazing, Tony. And that's like really the main reason I wanted Tony on here because like we're all like high performers, right? And it doesn't matter like if we're in real estate or selling cars or what we're doing, right? We're just gonna be good at those things. Like whatever we're doing, we're gonna be good at, right? Because of our mindset. And I just wanted Tony to like come and kind of speak that. That was awesome, Tony. Thank you so much. And I dropped a link to that book too that Tony mentioned in the chat.
So who's got some questions? Let's rock this thing.
Actually, I apologize for jumping on late. I think you guys probably been on almost an hour before I was able to jump on because I was that guy doing tasks for other people.
Come on, man.
I'm on the road working right now. So
you saying no to yourself, Justin? You saying no to yourself?
Not right now. I'm saying yes to the half of this call.
There you go.
But like you said earlier, this isn't really a question. I apologize, but it reminded me of a scene in a movie talking about, focusing on, or not focusing on the negative things that are going around. You used capital as an example, but it reminded me, silly enough, it reminded me of one of Jet Li's movies, and he's in the supermarket, and there's a fight going on in the supermarket, and he's sitting there just looking at his fruit, testing the fruit, and again, this guy's getting beat up, and it happens, and then Morgan Freeman comes around, he's like, "That didn't bother you?" And he's like, "No, they weren't fighting me." And he's like, he's all just doing what he's got to do, and that's what it reminded me of. And like ever since I saw that, I'm like, oh, I see that, like that might be going on, but I can't let it bother me. I got other shit I got to do, and you can use that analogy on numerous things. Two people arguing over there, and you don't have to get involved, or you're in an argument with your boss on the phone. You don't really have to get all emotional involved if you don't want to.
Absolutely. Good analogy, man. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, it reminded me. I'm trying to think of the movie, but I'm a kung fu cinema guy, so.
So I should have lip synced the words and had them off a little bit, like the old Chinese classic movies. That'd have been great.
And put the subtitle at the bottom. Then I would have really been able to follow you. Yep.
So you would have been here on time then. See.
Yeah, I know. Unleashed. That was the name of the movie. It's a really good movie. Unleashed. It's an awesome movie.
Got it.
It's not a book recommendation, but it's still fun.
What's funny is when you were talking about like the things you should be saying no to, like me and Nate, like this happens to us like all the time in our like property management business. Like we have to do things and it literally pisses me off to like no end that I have to do it. So I'm like, Nate, this is dumb. Like we should not be doing this. Like we need to like have someone else doing it.
We've been talking about certain things for the past like 10 days, like getting them off. We've gotten a bunch off. We got to get some more off.
Outside of legal forms and things with dollar signs on them, there's a lot of tasks that people put on your plate that just kind of disappear, like vestigial things that just fall off and you don't even need to worry about them. And nobody even asks about them after a period of time. Like quit wasting your time on stuff like that,
Yeah, absolutely.
Tony, where did you get the diagram about the 4 squares for the importance or the urgency and all that?
That is a very common one, and it's basically, where do I have that on here?
You'll share that slide, I think, too, so we'll all have it.
Yeah, well, I drew it on my notebook.
President Eisenhower came up with that, so it's called the Eisenhower Matrix.
Ain't that some shit? Okay.
Yeah, he was well known for being super organized, so that was actually one of his things.
Nice. Yeah, I dig that. Now I feel silly because you're like, oh, it's been around since Eisenhower. I'm like, oh yeah, I knew that.
Yeah.
The cool thing with that diagram, I read a book and it was in there like 2 months ago. I started doing it. That top right corner, that's important but not urgent. If you actually do most stuff in there, a lot of the stuff doesn't even hit urgent because you already like did it.
Right. The planning part. Yeah.
Super helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing that should be in the urgent and important should be like the emergency type stuff, right? The things that are the unknowns that you didn't do.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of that stuff you can kind of like pre-plan a lot of it, like prevent it. Like the stuff Tito was talking about.
Yeah.
If we do it before it's urgent, it doesn't get to the urgent stage.
That's right. And if you have the processes to handle emergencies, it kind of also moves it out.
Yep. So
yeah, because I go through a lot of that. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rob.
At the not to veer this to somewhere totally different, but at the beginning of this call, you mentioned something about planning for 2024 now. What kind of exercises or questions do you ask yourself to kind of be able to visualize what that would look like and what you want to get out of life that far ahead. Do you have any suggestions for that?
Yeah, great question. I think about different categories of my life, and I always, like, even on my podcast, I think about the subjects of health, wealth, mindset, and relationships. Those are what I consider the four cornerstones of happiness and fulfillment. So I think about, what is it that I want my physical health to look like in 4 years, right? What physical shape do I need to be in? I think about, what are my relationships with my wife and my kids and my friends look like? And am I being intentional with those? And am I improving those on a daily basis? What would I like it to look like in 4 years? And the weird thing is, I start to think about, what does the future version of Tony look like? You kind of go into a third person scenario. And I said, would that better version of me make the decisions today that I'm doing now? And so I try to think future forward of everything that's involved in my life. And when it comes to a decision made today, whether I'm eating a bad meal, I'm not saying I'm perfect. Nobody here is perfect, but I think about, what would the future version of me, the better version of me, decide today in this moment? Like, if I'm making a business decision, or taking on a partnership, or investing in a company, or launching a new product, or I always think about, what would future version, like the kind of, like the guy that's like, no, like, that's not going to get you to your goal. Like, if you do that, right? So it's kind of like the angel on your shoulder type scenario. And I really do think like that. I think about, should I still be saying F-bombs and things like that, right? Like, is it really going to get me to goal? Yeah, maybe. Okay, we'll keep going, right? So understanding these kind of things is really how I think. And it's worked for me, because every time I think of goals, I hit them. Because if I start thinking about the future version of me and my businesses, I start to think like that now, which leads to that, right? So we can't live in the moment. We always have to think about what's years ahead. And when I do that, I always hit the goal. My entire life, I've done this, and I wasn't aware I was doing that until I started to be more aware and like paying attention. And I would hit these goals a lot sooner. Like, I'll set a 3-year goal, I'll hit it in 2 years, and that's great. But it just keeps me thinking further ahead. So I don't like to live in the moment rather than just being present of what I'm doing. I try to think about, how am I going to be that right person? How am I going to build that right company? How am I going to do this thing? And I try to apply the future version in my mind to today.
Perfect. Thank you.
I think Matthew McConaughey, the actor, if I pronounce this right, he said once his hero is 10 years from himself, 10 years from now.
That's right.
So that kind of, when I first hear it, like, it just kept thinking about it. And I'm kind of 100% on board on what all you said. And being almost like 4 or 5 years as an investor. And in 2020, I just realized, when you realize, like, what you want to do, who are you, and all that stuff, and am I happy with all what I'm doing? And it just, I was one man show for all my business. And that's what you said, about, hiring other people, outsourcing and all that stuff. And for the first time in summer 2020, I took the step and hire coordinator, hire someone else, hire project manager. And oh my God, it feels so great. And
stress levels come down, and you actually start making more money. And
yeah. Like literally, I boost my flip business from doing 1 to 4 and 5 in the same time.
Hell yeah.
And I was not like, I believe for so long time I wasn't able to do it.
Dude, it's a mindset that I grew up lower middle class. I mean, I lived in fixer-uppers my entire life. We would actually buy the crappiest house in the crappiest neighborhood, just near the good school system. And my parents and my sister and I, we would basically remodel the house while we lived in it, and we would live in it for 4 or 5 years, and we would flip it and buy a little bit nicer crappy house, right? And that's what I did. The first 3 houses I lived in were all flip like type houses that were like really bad, like talking like purple carpet bad, with like wood paneling bad. It's like the only thing is like, is this a trailer home or something? Because it seems like it looks like one inside. Like, what's going on in here? But yeah, one house we bought had the kitchen cabinets were just pegboard. Yeah, just pegboard. Like, they made them out of, I guess they thought it was stylish because it had all the holes in it or something. It's like, what is this? So I get that, dude. And it's the mindset we grow up with that we had to fight against. And, you know, when we hear things like time is money, it's not true at all. That's like the worst statement you can ever hear. It's time is not equal to money. When I started to build businesses and I started making money while I sleep, I'm making money while I'm talking to you guys. I'm not anywhere, right? There's money coming in the background. So when you understand that when you can disconnect time and money, it becomes limitless at that point. Because before that, I always believed that I had to go get a second job, had to go get a pay raise, had to pick up extra shift, work overtime, do all these things. I was always trading my time for dollars because I thought time was money. And that's what we're conditioned to believe, especially middle class America. We're always told that, and everybody repeats it over and over and over, and they don't realize that it's not true. It's just kind of goes back to the whole thing we talked about. I don't have time. Well, I don't have time either. Okay, cool. Like we stopped the conversation there for most people who aspire to be average, because we've conditioned ourselves to say, if I don't have time, you're not supposed to ask any further questions. You're supposed to stop that conversation and understand that you can use the same excuse. But when you tell someone like me, I don't have time, I'll say, okay, pull out your phone, show me your calendar. I don't have one. I just have a job. It's like, okay, so 9 hours a day with commute, that's a block of your calendar. What are you doing for the rest of the hours? Like, you don't have time, huh? See, most people don't have a calendar, and they're kind of blown away. Like, people live by a calendar. Like, I could pull my calendar up. You'll see it's like filled. I have like every hour of every day scheduled what I'm going to be doing. Writing a book, write book, right? Going to the gym, go to the gym. Social calls here, dinner here, go out with the wife here. I plan it all out. And the best thing about that is I don't have to remember anything. You want anxiety, you want overwhelm, try to remember all the shit you have to do on a weekly basis, let alone a monthly basis. If you just put it on your calendar, you wake up and go, boom, this is what I'm doing today. I don't care about tomorrow, I'm doing this, right?
I remember you had those blackboards behind you where that sign is now. You had all that stuff on, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's over here now. The funny thing about that blackboard, it used to be here also. And the significance thing I talked about in the presentation, the book was that for me. I knew that the book was going to potentially launch my career, right? Because it was like, how do I get my word out to thousands of people and make it, you know, something that's tangible, that someone that could hold it and read it and learn something from it, and maybe it blows up. And I procrastinated. I had that book in my mind for 5 years. Someday I'm going to write a book. Someday. And you look on the calendar, there's no someday on the calendar. And so I think it's like, man, why am I resisting this? Why am I resisting? Right? Is it imposter syndrome? That's probably what it is. Maybe I'm fear of criticism, or people are going to put my word out there and laugh at it, or, you know, why am I resisting this? And I started thinking about, what if I write this book and it becomes a bestseller and then launches my career and everybody wants to interview me and I bring on new clients and all these different things. And that's the gravity of that, right? It all happened, right? I thought about, what if I get on TV or I'm on radio or stages because of this book? And that's why I had to go invest in becoming a speaker, you know, and I got Tio, I suckered him into joining Toastmasters too. And, you know, so it's all about becoming an effective communicator, becoming the person I envisioned. Kind of going back to what Rob was talking about, I envisioned myself doing the things I'm doing 4 years ago. I wasn't the right person at that time. I had to become that person. I had to invest in that and do the skills and do the reps and do the videos and do really awkward things to make myself comfortable doing those things. But then I became that person, and that's who I am today, right? So what are you willing to do? Most people aren't willing to do what it takes. That's the truth. You fall around with your friends that are complacent. Maybe the worst thing you can be is the most successful one of your friends. That's the worst thing you can be, because they're going to keep validating that you're super successful, you're super awesome. Wish we could have you. Wish we had the same car as you. And they're going to keep validating. It's going to create a false ceiling that you're not going to get above, because you think like, I'm already the most successful of my friends. Why do I got to keep climbing? Right? You create these boundaries. So there's a lot of these mindset things that we got to get past. And I don't like the whole, I don't like time. I don't have this. I don't do that. Like, bullshit. Everybody can make time for what they want to do. Like we talked about, whatever you're doing right now is your priority. And when you call it that, it sounds stupid, right? Like, I don't mind sitting on the couch once in a while watching a TV show with my wife, but when I say this is my priority, it sounds stupid, because it is my priority, because that's what I'm choosing to do in that moment. It's my priority. So if that kind of bothers you, start calling things your priority that you're wasting time on. Hey, I'm looking at Instagram and Facebook. this is my priority. Say it like all proud. This is my priority. I'm surfing Facebook. Like, wait, it's not my priority. It's not my priority at all. Why am I doing this? What is my priority, right?
Hey, Michael, I see you got your hand up. Do you have a question? I saw Jamie had a question too, but I think she dropped off.
Yeah, I had a question. Thank you. Tony, when you're, I guess going back to your project management phase, if you have a long-term goal, let's say it's to like build a course, how can you build your like your waterfall chart or whatever it is that can predict how long it's going to take? I guess how can I work backwards to figure out how long something is going to take so that I can plan properly for it? I don't have a difficult time working on something. Hey, I'm going to work on this for 2 hours. But I have a really hard time estimating when it's actually going to be complete, especially with all the, human things that happen, like, computer issues, or maybe I didn't understand this part of the process and it's taking a little bit longer. How do you account for those things when you were planning a project?
Well, I mean, something like building a course doesn't have a hard deadline unless somebody's paying you. Like if you get a book royalty deal and they're paying you, they give you a schedule. I wrote a book for automotive and they said it's got to be done in 6 months and here's the check. And so you're held to a date, obviously. But if it's your own project, the date is whatever you set it. So there will be some fluff in there just for those things that are the unknown. That's nothing wrong with that. But the problem is that you have to guard the time. Okay. So for me, writing that book, I knew the gravity of it. I knew that it could be potentially the thing that changed my entire career, which it did, shocker alert. But I didn't take it serious until I started to apply the significance value to it, because writing a book, let's be honest, like sitting there an hour or so every other night, it seems low priority. Like I can get to that. I have a whole life to write this thing. Like no big deal. I got these other things that are super important. I got this email box that's bothering me, and I got these clients I got to do follow-up calls on and stuff like that. You think that those are the urgent things, but they're not as significant, right? So I just guarded my time, and anytime a distraction was presented to me, I would look at my calendar. If Zaid, if you called and say, hey man, let's go have dinner today, dude, I haven't hung out in a while. And you're like, hey, what time? And, hey, 7 o'clock, man, let's meet at the bar. Okay, cool. Look at my calendar, write book. Which is higher on the write book or go hang out with my pal?
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah, I would apply that significance. Like, is saying yes to Said, and as much as I would like to go do that, is saying yes to him, is saying no to me, the saying no to what I need to be accomplishing. And sometimes the distraction or the opportunity was weighing higher than what the book is, and that's okay, right? But you have to get into this quantitative analysis of what the tasks are and how they weigh against each other, and determine and learn to say no again. And remember, you have to learn to say no. That's the key thing. We always say yes too much. I mean, I missed toddler birthdays in the family. My wife's got a big family, and like niece, nephew, like 2-year-old having a birthday, stuff like that. It's like, dude, my book is way more important than a 2-year-old who's not going to remember me being there. Like when they turn 5 or so, they start to remember if you're there. But when they're little babies, especially newborns, like as cute as that is, I don't really have 6 hours to go hang out and socialize. I got shit to do, and those people just have to understand that. And that's why I'm where I am, and that's where they are. So you learn to say no to the priorities and distractions, and you guard that time. Writing the book, I guarded that time. I knew the significance of it. See?
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Tony, I do have one question actually on, I guess, what was it? It was for, I'm blank right now. Oh, so putting a task that you know that you are not going to want to do, right? So a task, like delegating a task to someone else. Is that something that you would do? Because a lot of us are new at, this whole real estate or even, entrepreneur or anything like that. Going into it, the task that you already know ahead of time that you would prefer to delegate to somebody else, is that something that you would look at doing from the start? Or do you think about finding someone to delegate these tasks to moving forward once they become like a time issue?
I think early on, we don't have enough cash flow in early businesses to hire things out. So you do wear a lot of hats initially, but you need to figure out how to fire yourself from those tasks as soon as possible. So when you start to get some revenue income coming in, you need to fire yourself because you're essentially overpaying yourself to be underqualified to do a crappier job than somebody that, you know, here's a good story. I was at a Arte Syndicate dinner. This is a high-level mastermind. It's almost a six-figure investment once you factor in all the travel and all the things that we do a year. And I was sitting at a table with, you know, 6 other high-level people, and we had the guest sitting at the table, Evan Carmichael. He's a big YouTuber, right? And he's also a coach. He's a branding coach. And while he's sitting there, I said, "Hey, let's go around the table and like give each other advice or ask questions. We got a guest speaker sitting here with us." And so, yeah, Evan's like, "Hell yeah, I'm on board. Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's talk about business at a small talk." Like, awesome. So first guy's like, "Well, you know, I did this and this and this." And, you know, and he's talking about really low level shit, right? Like $15 stuff, like administrative stuff. He's busy, right? And how do I do this and employ? And Evan stops him right in the middle of the conversation. Like, he's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa." And I'm like, "Whoa, what's going on here?" Evan says, "Look at this table. Everybody in here is millionaire. Why are you bringing a $15 an hour problem to this fucking table?" I was like, whoa. I was like, I've never heard it stated that way. And it stuck with me. That's why I'm sharing the story with you, because people were complaining about issues that can be solved by hiring somebody for $15 an hour. So why are you bringing a $15 an hour problem to a table with millionaires that can help you with $100,000 problems or $1 million problems? See? So your objective is to go find bigger problems, you know, get rid of the small problems. Like I've learned to classify that, like some bullshit administrative thing comes up, or I go, that's a $20 an hour problem. That's a $5 an hour problem. A VA could do that. That's a $100 an hour problem. Maybe I pay attention a little bit more to that one. You start classifying that, you stop wasting your time on the cheap ones. You just go pay somebody to do them. Did I get your question answered?
Yeah, definitely does. Yeah. So you work your way through it. So like from the start, you have to identify that being an issue, and then as you grow or expand,
and you don't have to have a full-time employee. I mean, there's virtual assistants that work all over the world.
Yes.
And you basically pay them by the hour. They don't need 40 hours from you. And these people work for $5 to $7 an hour, right? A lot of the administrative stuff, they're highly intelligent. They got degrees and they can speak English properly, and you can do the interviewing and firing and all that stuff. But the minus our recent inflation things, I mean, our dollar value is still pretty high compared to theirs. And it's actually a good living for them to pay them that way. So you don't have to feel guilty about it. It's actually a good job for them. So you just pay them for what you need. And if you can carve out a bunch of administrative stuff that you can dish off to them, the easiest way to think about that is you just got to write a procedure on how to do it. Or if it's a computer thing or an app, you can use Loom, Loom. Loom is a way to, you can record anything on your screen, like mouse movements and clicking here and typing there. So you can actually, if you can make your processes understandable by an 8th grade level person, and if they're a little too complicated, you have to have processes within processes, right? You can just simplify them down to, again, 8th grade level. If you can always think that way, if an 8th grade can read this and follow the instruction or copy me on the video, then a VA can do it, right? And you don't need to do it anymore. It basically just comes off your plate. So you can just sit there and go, hey, I got this app. I got to go type this thing in, and here's where I find it. You can just click Loom, click record, and just go through the whole thing and narrate it while you're speaking and doing it, and then just save it as a video, and there's your process. Yeah.
Cool.
Great for lead gen too. There's a lot of them. You can just do a lead gen process, building a network. Hey, go LinkedIn, search real estate investors, send invites to connect. You know, I mean, it could just be a video. Type this in here, search here, go send invites just like this. Do this 15 minutes every day for a week. You know, send me the bill. What else?
Hey, Tony.
What's up, Ahmed?
How you doing?
Good, man.
Good. So I know we're talking about goal setting, but what about habits? And I don't like a habit that I have, and that's being much more productive during the later afternoons and early evenings of the day. And I don't want to be productive, then I want to be productive earlier in the day. But for whatever reason, I've always been like that. Maybe just the way my clock is ticking internally or whatever it is, but it's a habit that I would like to start shifting to earlier.
I don't believe in that. I don't think there's a one size fits all for our productivity hours. I think we're all wired differently. And whenever I hear people presenting themselves as coaching gurus and telling you have to get up at 4 a.m. and do yoga and then meditate for 10 minutes and take an ice bath and write your fucking journal, and like that just annoys the shit out of me, because they're trying to tell you that what works for them should be what everybody does. And I mean, there's multimillionaires that sleep in all day and hang out all night. We're all different. We're not the same. My morning is when my brain is on fire, right? So, and I didn't understand this, because after working corporate so long, you're basically having to be somewhere at a certain time. So you adapt the things that you need to do and the things that you have to do. And you just kind of condition yourself on that time window. The whole business hours bullshit, right? And when I left corporate in 2015, I started to just pay attention to what my body was saying rather than the time was saying. And I've always been a morning person, so I get up around 4:30 in the morning just by nap. I haven't used an alarm clock in 20 years. That's another thing that's kind of interesting. I sleep about 7 hours unless I'm sick. So knowing that, I just go to bed on time and I get up early enough to do things I need to do, and I'm never late. I was never late at work, and I just get up at kind of around 4:30 to 5 a.m. It's like that window. I just wake up because I go to bed on the right time. And so I don't like alarm clocks because they piss me off. Like, no one wants to hear the stupid noise in your ear the first waking moment of the day. It kind of sets the energy tone, like we talked about earlier. It's like the energy that you start your day pissed off. Like, why do you want to do that? That's like road rage, right? So I said, how can I game it where I don't sleep in? And well, I just don't drink anymore. I actually quit 2 months ago, and I was only a social drinker anyways, maybe 2 or 3 drinks a whole month. I just decided that my mind means more than the drinking, and I can have fun without drinking nowadays. Right. So it's, how do you get the habit? For me, I'm a morning person, so I guard that time for creative work. I like analytical and creative work between 5 a.m. to noon. And I could feel that my brain starts to taper off between noon to about 3 o'clock. And sometimes I'll just go take a 30-minute power nap when I'm feeling like really drained. When I start reading shit and I don't pay attention when I'm reading, I'll go take a nap, because it's a fallacy again, going back to corporate. Like, if you take naps, you're lazy. I could hear my dad saying that shit in my mind. Like, you take naps, you're lazy. Well, there's a reason that places like Google and these high level companies like have nap rooms, because they learned that you can get more productivity by just taking a 30-45 minute nap with an alarm this time, because you definitely don't want to oversleep. But what I found is I could drag ass for 4 hours and be really unproductive mentally, or I can go lay down for 30 to 45 minutes and then wake up and sacrifice that time, but then I'll be really productive on the back end. So I'd gain another 3 hours of productivity and being hyper focused again, which I'd rather have. I'd rather sacrifice 1 hour and get 3 hours of productivity and then drag ass for 4 hours. So don't be ashamed to take those naps if you have the opportunity to do that. Just make sure you set an alarm and don't sleep more than an hour, because it'll screw you all up. Your circadian rhythm gets jacked up. So do that. And for me, like the later evenings, like around this, usually I'm kind of like, I took a nap probably an hour before this happened just so I'd be fresh. But normally I'm kind of fading right now. And it's 7:40. It's a little later, but at the beginning of this meeting at 6 p.m. here, and that's usually when I go to the gym, right? I'll go to the gym and be physical when I'm mentally not there. So I don't believe in getting the gym workout done in the morning. Like, dude, that's what, like, my mind is on fire. I want to get shit done like mentally. And then when I'm done mentally, I want to go be physical. So whatever that falls in line for you, Ahmed, just rock with that, and don't try to fight it. Your body's going to tell you what it wants.
So you don't think it's like a learned
No, I really
because
don't.
like, I was in project management for many years, construction sites and buildings and stuff like that. And during the day, and you know this too, during the day, you're putting out fires.
Yep.
You're fixing problems. And then the only time you can really get things ahead is like late afternoons and stuff like that. But I thought that's maybe where I picked it up from.
What part of the day do you feel like you're mentally there?
Afternoon.
Yeah,
Afternoons.
that's probably your body, and it could probably be changed based on like when you eat and what type of food you eat. And there's a lot of things you can do to create variables, but I think that that's your body telling you like, hey, this is me right now. And guard that time for that type of work, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So for you, you should probably go gym first thing in the morning,
Yeah.
you know, because you're mentally not there. Just go be physical.
Sure. Go wake up.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got a comment. I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts on this. Like I said, I'm kind of getting back into this after 10 years, and I also have a corporate background. But what I've found in the last year, which just blows me away, it's like everything is a fight, it seems, and everything is way harder than it should be. And no one really knows how they should do things. And it's just so obvious. And I've spent and wasted a lot of frustrating time. And I just look at these people, whether it's the banks, like a handful of banks, and I just cannot believe some of the stuff they have done or don't know how to do. And I've talked about it, and I've said, this is what I don't want to have happen. And it happens. And then, 2 weeks later, I say, well, this is the next thing I don't want to have happen. And it happens. I warn them, and they still can't prevent it. And it's just a constant fight. I'm like, this stuff should be automatic, and I'm wasting my time. And people have worked in like different agencies, and they like try to answer a question. And I'm like, you've worked in that agency for how many years, and you don't know how to efficiently answer that question? So there's no uncertainty. I mean, it's just absolutely. Does anybody else have that feeling?
Yeah, all of us.
And when did that all change? Because I don't remember it being that bad. And my story is a little bit longer than that, but I guess I was kind of out of the corporate world. And
so this goes back to Steve. This is important because if I was going to throw a number out there, I would say that probably 40% of our population are just dumb as shit. They're just dumb. We see evidence of that on the highways. I mean, they're just dumb. People are just dumb. Not everybody's intelligent. I get that. And you're not going to change that, obviously, right? So I don't get mad. I don't get upset with these dumbasses. Like, there's a whole lot of incompetence. I mean, I see the deals that my wife, she's a realtor. Like sometimes these listing and buying agents she has to work with are total dumbasses, and she spends more time correcting their documentations than they should be doing it. And you think that, well, this is their job and they should be doing it right, but they're just dumb people. So I don't get upset about it. I go, hey, they're dumb. But can I control their idiot, being an idiot? No, I can't control it. So I don't invoke or involve my emotional energy into that. See, so I rephrase. I don't, like you said, like, I get so frustrated, and
I need to work on that. But
yeah.
And the other thing is like common courtesy. And there was one example where I was driving like in this interchange. I've never been there before. And it was an emergency phone call I was expecting. Otherwise, I would never answer the phone. And this lady from the bank called me, and I said, I'm driving, and I was expecting an emergency call. And she still just continued. She didn't ask me if this is a good time. And she just kept on talking, and I'm driving through traffic. And I'm like, common courtesy, number one, you would ask me if this is a good time. Number two, after I tell you it's not, and then you start rambling about something that should have been handled 3 days ago. And it's like one of these, what do you call it, mechanical issues. It's like, this isn't even worth my time. And now I'm risking my life. And you were just so not courteous or respectful or business practices. I don't know. I wouldn't even do that to a friend. If a friend says, no, I'm driving, you let him off the phone. I just can't believe it. So yes, I need to
believe everything, man.
Frustration, but I just
everything. Just laugh it off. It's just fucking idiots. Just accept it. You're not going to change it. You getting it? I could already see you're kind of like getting upset about it right now.
Absolutely.
So you need to learn how to get that awareness of
yes.
Here's the input, here's the awareness that steps in, and here's the proper reaction. And when you can do that and practice on those dumbass things, like these things that annoy the shit out of you, use those as opportunities to catch yourself. And if you do this enough, you basically will control your emotions going forward. Because I'll tell you that anger and frustration, most people think that's a show of courage. It's another thing that we grow up with. Like you think like you're being attacked and like, I'm super mad now. And like dudes bowing up at the bar, like thinking like they're super alpha and doing all that stuff. You think that's a show of aggression, but what it really is, it shows you're fucking mentally weak. It shows you have lack of self-control.
the best way to win an argument is not to have one. And
exactly. So don't get all worried about these people. Just understand that it's never going to change, dude.
And
You can only control you. You can only control what you do. You can't control what the idiots do. So don't get upset about it.
Or is it just me and I'm just it seems like it's just gotten worse. I don't know, but I guess that's
the other thing too I want to say to that is like the law of attraction is a real thing. And when you get upset about that, you just literally attract more of that to you. So that's probably why you're seeing, I did that all the time myself. So like when you kind of do what Tony says and you're like, oh, they're dumbasses, you know, fuck them, whatever.
Yeah.
Life is so much better because then you don't attract that next guy to do that same thing to you, right? That's something that I found super useful.
Yeah, I shifted, dude. Steve, I just think about, I'm grateful that dumbasses exist. That means I can win easier.
Yeah, well, that's what I kind of like. A lot of times it's like a few people that I've gone through this with, and it's just like, you know, don't waste your time or my time because in the end, you're going to see that I'm right. So you just wasted your time and my time, and you just understand that and just do it. Yes, but the other thing is just to make it more efficient. I just need to get through all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I need help on the other side, and when no one seems to know what they're doing or how things should be done, it's just hard. But it seems like
that's rampant in every industry that you'll ever find. So
but I just spend so much time on these, you know, useless, and it's
so if you know that you're having this reoccurrence, start scheduling that into your time. You know, don't do things last minute and go, hey, I got the dumbass factor. That means it's going to be a week of fuck ups before things happen. So just put that on your schedule. Right?
Someone to deal with the fuck ups.
Yeah. And when you plan it and the fuck ups happen, you'll be like, I knew this was going to happen, but I already thought of it. I'm good.
Jay, I saw you unmuted. Did you have a question? Maybe not. Jay, did you have a question? I saw you unmuted there for a second. Not anyone else?
That was all very helpful advice, you guys. So I appreciate it. And I know I apologize to everybody. Probably wasn't that entertaining.
No, glad to help. We got to get you through this, man. You have to have that awareness. You have use those little daily challenges as awareness. Use any of those things as awareness.
Can I toss one thing in the mix there for Steve? When you started that, I kind of forget what you were saying, but you basically said that every banker you talk to, you explain to them what you don't want them to do. You're kind of like setting the bar for something bad to happen. Instead of doing that, just tell them exactly what you want to happen and like have that in your head all the time. I'm not saying you're a negative person, but you might have like a slightly negative mindset. So like it's like targeting the wrong outputs basically. Like you're kind of guiding yourself to get a bad result, I think.
Yeah.
Try to like alter that, and you know what I mean? I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain.
No, I hear you and I would agree, but I would say that that's towards the end of the process.
I get it. Yeah. No, I agree. And they're really dumb people. So
I'm Dale Carnegie all the way, you know, don't avoid all confrontations, say something nice, always say something positive, and we'll get through this, blah, blah. I know, but it still ends up, but that's good feedback. Thank you.
Dumbass factor, just remember it.
I learned how to control
Schedule
that.
with the best plans and put your dumbass factor into it and see, it's all good.
We got anybody else with questions? I saw some earlier.
Zay, did you have some?
Well, I just want to thank you, Tony, and thank you, Tio, all of you guys. I have to leave in view. I just want to thank you. I was about to have some common insight, but you just covered it and you just said a couple of things. So just want to thank you. I'm really a big fan of what Tio is doing, the 365 driven, and I see his videos all the time, and it just he's inspiring me, and I'm kind of guy that's shy behind the camera and all that stuff. I think Tio is witnessing that I'm trying to be uncomfortable with how they say it, being uncomfortable
being comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable, yeah. So I'm trying to ice break that in me, and hopefully, getting myself into it more.
Well, here's the things, Zaid. If there's things that you fear, and there's things that you avoid, those are indicators of things that you probably should be doing. And so most people run from those situations. You should run towards those situations and get past them and learn how to do things. Every issue that you have, every problem that we have is known to man. It's not a unique problem. Millions of people, past and previous and current, have had the exact same problem. And there's solutions to every single thing that you can accomplish. So just go, hey, this is the issue I want to come up with. How do I get past that? For me, it was public speaking. So I joined Toastmasters and I hired a coach and did stupid videos for a year. And now I stand on stages and I get paid really well to do things. And it's something that I had to go do to become the right person. So I could have avoided it. I didn't like to do that stuff initially. Then I got good at it. See, it's a skill. I mean, I can hear you got the immigrant accent. You learned English when you came over, or you did it before you came over, right? You learned a new language, right?
Yeah, I came over almost came to say almost 8 years ago.
Okay.
So,
did you speak English when you came here?
Barely communicate,
Okay.
couple.
So you've learned English. You can communicate now. Public
Yeah.
speaking and these things, it's another language. It's just another language.
Yeah, and talking about I like your insight about the waking up in the morning and all that stuff, because I'm not a morning person. However, I'm forcing myself to do that, just because there's so much stuff that maybe in 2020 happened, and I just want to restructure my life, rechange my whole thing. And you talked about, sorry, dude.
No,
Go ahead.
I said that's okay. I mean, if you're getting results that you don't want, then you do have to sometimes change, and maybe that's the thing you need to do. I mean, that's okay.
Correct. And kind of I noticed that, after being part of an agent investor and all that stuff, so after 9:30, 10 o'clock, it just my emails and emails, text message calls, and it doesn't stop. So I told myself I need to be more focusing on the, building my team, building my business and all that stuff. So I started to force myself to wake up toward 5 o'clock in the morning, not because I want to, it's just because that's the only time, an hour for me to meditate, work out, whatever that hour, just to give me that power and energy for my all day. And the rest, maybe 2-3 hours, just focusing on myself, and then for others.
Good. It's good. You're planning it. See, that's good.
And you're killing it with the videos, man. Keep going.
There you go.
You're killing that. You're doing a great job.
Get an accountability partner, join a group like ours, and just it'll hold you to it. So I'm going to go run and eat. I really enjoyed hanging out with you guys. And if you want to reach me, 365driven.com. And that's the name of the podcast, is also 365 Driven. It's an entrepreneurship mindset, wealth, health mindset, everything that we talk about. I interview a lot of awesome people, and I invite you all to listen to that. It's free and it's on your phone, and you have it on iPhones or Spotify. It's available everywhere. And hope you enjoy that resource.
Thank you, Tony.
Thanks for coming out, Tony.
All right.
Thank
you.
you.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
night.
Good night. I'll keep the room open if anyone wants to hang out and talk some real estate. But yeah, I hope you guys got a lot of value out of that. That was, I figured it's right. Most real estate groups, they just talk about real estate, but kind of what I was saying before, it's the fundamental stuff that's what's really important, right? It just so happens that we're applying it to real estate, so I think it's the most important part of it. So what are you guys seeing? I think most of us are in Michigan. We got some guys that are in California. We got, I don't know if the guy from Canada was still here. What are you guys seeing? What do you guys, what's your game plan for 2021? Any deals in the works? Anything good?
I'm personally just kind of curious. How is the market gonna move the next 2 years? Really? The whole with the election and like possible market crash and stuff like that. So kind of curious what would I expect as like a novice investor and real estate agent.
Yes, it was kind of hard to hear you, but I think you're saying with like the whole election and with everything going on, what we kind of see going forward. Honestly, like the way I see it is if a deal makes sense, it makes sense, right? So if a rental property, if a wholesale deal, if a flip, you know, whatever happens comes my way, I'm gonna do it. The way I see it is I don't think we should be worried about like a selling price. Right now, like let's say like an ARV is 150 and you're buying a house for like 50K. There's so many people that need a place to live, a nice place to live. I don't see that like actual like fixed up price going anywhere. I think that's just gonna keep being there because I think Nate was saying, I don't know where he read it. It's like a chronic housing shortage for the next like 8 to 10 years in the affordable housing game, right? So as long as the numbers make sense, maybe add in a little extra buffer just, you know, to be on the safe side, but you know, numbers don't lie, you know?
It also, yeah, it was hard to hear you, but yeah, that was basically what I got from your question. On top of what he said, it depends like your strategy. If you're looking to like buy a property and fix it for 2 years, that might be kind of risky. I mean, who knows, you know, but if you're like a quick fix and flip, you buy it and in 2 months you have it on the market, they're selling in a week right now. So if you look at that time horizon as being a very short window, so as long as you can look and say nothing crazy is going to happen in the next 8 months, you're relatively safe. And then a rental is even more stable. And as long as you're in an area that has some economic drivers at all, and you know what you could rent for, and you right now there's again a big shortage on all of that. So it does, I guess, matter what thing you're doing, but almost ignore all of that and just make sure it makes sense with what you're doing, I guess, you know. And if you have more specifics, we could get into it now or later or whatever. But that's how I would look at it. And that's how I look at everything.
Just got a general question. I don't have that many tenants, and they're all kind of in a either healthcare or something that's not really affected by the pandemic. But like for other tenants, how are they managing right now for all the people that aren't like doing hourly or, you know, from home or office work?
They're not paying their rent. That's what they're doing. They're on, you know, if you have a mortgage, they have defeasance, so they don't have to pay their mortgage. And if they're renting, then they don't have to pay the rent because they have, you know, the mortgage has the forbearance, but the renters have that, you know, you're not getting evicted. There's an eviction moratorium. You don't have to pay your rent, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of them are taking advantage of it. My apartment buildings are at 93% rent collection, which is actually really good. I'm surprised, but that's like the national average right now. But the retail buildings are at 45% rent collection right now. And that's because a lot of them got shut down, but also some people are just taking advantage of the situation. And there's no way of doing much about that, you know? And so.
Yeah, my question kind of actually tied into that. I was going to ask you guys just what the general feeling is for some of those tenancy protections dropping off. Like, do you guys kind of think there's going to be more of a supply from something like that, or more single family? That's just kind of what I've been kind of keeping an eye on. And I've just been really curious how it's going to come to fruition here.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say like everything that we manage, everything we have, we've collected on. We have been able to do evictions, and the evictions we've done hasn't been because of bad rent, like them not paying rent. It's been because of just shit tenants that we've inherited.
Yeah.
But like, as far as like for me, like every deal that comes my way, I'm looking at it and I'm trying to buy it, right? As long as the numbers work. So I'm not really worried too much about like when that stuff goes ahead, because most of the stuff that you end up buying is going to have like month-to-month leases in place. If you have like a yearly one, maybe you know, kind of be weary and do a little bit more digging to make sure that that landlord did check those tenants properly, that they are good tenants that are paying, not just saying they're paying. And then, you know, the first month you get it, you figure out that no one's paying. But yeah, I'm still, I don't know, super positive, optimistic. And like I said, if you're on a month to month, you can still get people evicted. Granted, it's going to take way longer, but you can still do it.
Yeah, and I was coming at it from more of a buying perspective, is because I've kind of been just sitting on the sidelines doing a lot of research, waiting to strike. But obviously, you guys could probably understand, being new, that it's a lot going on right now to consider. So that's kind of what I was curious about.
There will be opportunities, but the competition is still going to be pretty fierce because everyone is stacking cash right now. There will be opportunities, but it's not going to be easy. They'll be working it, you know what I mean? But because everybody is stacking cash, so anybody who can stack cash is doing it right now. Whether they're big investors, they have millions of dollars in cash, or they're, you know, smaller guys and they're stacking smaller amounts. But everyone's getting ready for it, you know. So,
but it's also
that was kind of the
opportunity, because so like this past year in 2020, I bought the most units I've ever bought in my life in a year. I've hired the most people I've ever hired in my life in a year. And what else was there? I've done most flips I've ever done in my life in a year too. So like, you just got to take advantage of the opportunity, because like you said, like a lot of people might be scared and might not be doing it, but the opportunities are there. Like when this all started in March, we could have been sitting here scared doing nothing, but instead of doing that, we got after it, right? And I think the results show for themselves. But I do understand being new, and it adds like an extra wrinkle in it.
Yeah, it was funny timing, because like March was right about when we were, you know, looking into starting to get serious about it, and then all that happened. So, but
yeah, I mean,
thanks
like,
for the feedback, though.
if you have questions on a deal, like a rental or a flip or whatever, feel free to reach out. I'll help you kind of run some numbers if you just want to have another set of eyes on it. Just
Sure thing.
if that helps you, you know, be more comfortable with it.
Like if you're looking at like risk factors, it definitely varies from area to area, asset class to asset class. So like Ahmed, he mentioned like retail, way different risk portfolio than say an apartment building or even a single family. And not saying it's better or worse, you just have to like factor everything into it, and like look at all of that and like how much you're willing to pay for what you think that's going to do, and kind of have a plan. I was actually we were in a room the other day with Ahmed, and he mentioned like a slight strategy he was taking towards some of his retail buildings, which was smart. He said he was trying to attract some medical tenants, give them some great discounts, because he figured they'll be there for 10, 20 years. So, I mean, you know, not to give away a secret, a lot of these guys Ahmed aren't anywhere near you. And
yeah, there's no competition. Yeah.
But I mean, that's like a great example. Like what, you know, what you were explaining the other day. That's like a great way to look at a bad asset class. Not bad, but that a lot of people are saying is bad, and turn it into a positive. You found like a nice niche target.
I'm giving away a bunch of free rent right now to people just to come in, because I know they're going to be long-term stable tenants. Now, no, people are going to say, why are you giving away free rent? Why so much? I'm like, well, it's empty anyways. I'm not making any money on it anyways. It's going to sit empty. So might as well sit empty for 3 or 6 months of free rent, and then collect something, than have it just sit empty for a year or two with no tenant. So
and the customer you picked is someone you know is putting a lot of money up front, so they're not going to leave. And once they start paying 6 months down the road or a year down the road, they'll start paying you. They'll pay you forever. You know,
yeah,
it's a good industry. And but that's like a good way to look at it. That's the only reason I picked that.
There's another thing. If any of you guys invest out of state, here's something to think about that I keep going over my mind. So it's I'm going to pull it up right now, and I think there's going to be a good steady demand of housing there. You know, I don't know if it's gotten expensive yet. So it's this. All right, you guys could pay me for this later. Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky International Airport. Southwest of Cincinnati.
They're adding an airport there.
What's that? No, but that's where Amazon is putting their global air hub. They're under construction on it right now. And DHL just did a massive expansion there. So if they're putting in, you know, the Amazon, their main air base is right there. DHL is right there. There's going to be probably a demand for multifamily because you're going to be having, like, you know, warehouse guys, aircraft mechanics, you know, pilots who are looking to bunk up with other pilots, you know, maybe some Airbnb type stuff. There may be, you know, I'm just thinking if there's so much going on in that airport because of whatever reason, maybe it's a chance to look at the surrounding area to see if there's anything cheap. And I can't tell you how that, you know, that economy is going to play out, but, you know, there's going to be a lot of movement at that airport. That means there's going to be a lot of trucks coming in and dropping off freight. There's going to be, you know, service trucks, aircraft mechanics, you know, pilots, first officers. There's going to be a lot more traffic going in and out of that airport now. So maybe it's something to look at. So, I mean,
what's the name of the city? I'm sorry.
It's called the Cincinnati Northern Kentucky International Airport. It's southwest of Cincinnati. If you go look up, you know, CVG Airport, DHL or CVG Airport, Amazon, you see these big old articles of how they're building these big campuses there for to support the air services that they're doing, you know? I mean, FedEx just did a small one here locally. Amazon is doing a small one here locally. These are just small local hubs, but that's going to be like the main hub. So these are the things I look at. You know, I don't really invest out of state, but if I did, I'd be looking at, you know, big movement of corporation stuff. Look at California. You know, Tesla is out. What's that software company is out there? I mean, we had like 5 major exits into Texas recently. What's that going to say? There's probably going to be a demand for some multifamily around some of those things in the coming years. You know, why people start migrating in and stuff like that. I don't know, but you know, I look for movement like that. So yeah, that's something to look at. But you guys might be too late. I think Teo's already all over it. He's bought up everything in the neighborhood. So
I'm trying to get the plug on that Cali market, man. Like all those people, like you got to be a contrarian, right? Everyone's moving to Texas, so everyone's like building crazy multifamily and all that.
I would like to move to Texas too if I could, but I can't.
Yeah, but I feel like, right, because like everyone's going over there, prices are going crazy. I feel like there's going to be a huge opportunity in California, right? Because there's no way California is just going to be like a desert, no man, right?
No, I mean,
nice,
we're
beautiful state.
You know, everyone's saying everything's moving out, but the thing is, though, California is still so underhoused. Everything is going to get backfilled. You know, maybe not. Maybe there's some really the high-end expensive stuff will take some time, but everything mid-market, middle market, blue collar is going to get backfilled because we're just so underhoused here. You know, I mean, there's the state of California has put out a mandate to local cities that the cities have to figure out a way to provide so many new housing units every year. Like this, you know, out here close to me, Riverside, you know, east of LA, about 45 minutes an hour. They're required to provide like 3,000 new houses or housing units over the next 10 years. How they're going to do that, that's up to them. Apartments, single family, rezoning, redevelopment, whatever it is, they got to figure it out. But if they don't do that, they're going to be like held in contempt with the state, and the state can come down on them if they don't start providing housing. You know, a lot of the cities have now filed lawsuits against the state by saying that's unfair, you can't do that. But the state's like, well, you know what? You're not being friendly to residents. You're not being friendly to developers. You can't keep pushing people off into the other cities. Everyone has to, you know, pick up their fair share of obligation by providing housing. So, you know, we'll be okay here. I'm not worried about it. I'm just worried about the governor and his draconian socialist ways. So we'll see how that turns out.
Yeah, that dude goes hard. I thought Michigan was bad.
Hard is hard is like an understatement. Yeah, he's bad news, but I was, you know, I was very Democrat up until recently, and now I'm like, you know,
You don't even
It's
know
like,
what you want to be anymore. You
yeah,
wanna be
I mean, the Democratic Party lost me big time. I'm like, okay, I'm totally independent now because either side is too extreme, and it's just I don't know. It's just California's not easy right now. You know what I mean? But the money's here, the population's here, the growth is here. What can you say? You know what I mean? It's like even though everyone's leaving, there's still a lot of opportunity somewhere somehow. I'm looking for redevelopment projects. I mean, I think you're in Detroit, you're prime for redevelopment. There's a lot of shit neighborhoods that have a lot of buildings, but out here in California, I'm gonna be driving hopefully soon. All the for lease signs are all coming up, but I'm looking for these old office buildings and these old restaurants that are built on large lots. You've seen them, they're built 60s and 70s when land was plentiful. You got this sit down mom and pop restaurant on an acre on a great street. They're not going to survive. A lot of people are eating at home, they're taking food home. These sit down restaurants are going to survive. The Cheesecake Factory will survive, but Jack's Diner may have a hard time. When Jack's Diner goes up for sale and no one comes and rents it or buys it for a restaurant, it's a nice big fat acre on a nice street. I'm sorry, Jack, but I'm going to take a bulldozer to it if I can. So office buildings, old retail buildings and stuff, those are where opportunities may lie. If you see something good and cheap on a good street, figure out a way to pick it up, because a good street will always be a good street. So what you do with the property, it's depends on the demographic, but
Yeah, sure. Rob, I saw you unmuted for a second there. Do you have something?
I just wanted to thank Ahmed for that recommendation for Cincy, considering I'm looking for warehouse and having success here in Detroit, but kind of was looking to expand and looking for places just off airports as well, with the same thought of the whole Amazon push. So good to hear a little inside baseball over here.
yeah, it's not going to be just the pilots and the mechanics that need a place to live. You're going to have a lot of any airport's going to need service. I mean, how many Amazon vans are running around town all day long? You could be a mobile service tech. You could have a tow company that all you do is tow Amazon vans when they break down. I mean, there's all sorts of like ancillary business you could pick up from them. I mean, you could even have like a rent a yard and put a security guard and tell the drivers of all these vans, you guys could park here every night, you know what I mean? And go pick up at Amazon tomorrow morning across the street. I don't know. There's different ways of like skinning the cat when it comes to Amazon and home delivery stuff.
Does anybody have any other ideas on like these long-term growth scenarios that are kind of evolving out of this pandemic? I would say Amazon is definitely one of them, as we have talked about. Does anybody else how society is going to change moving forward, and attractive real estate, and attractive real estate, related to those trends? I mean, Amazon is obviously an excellent example, but
I feel like anything service orientated, because I don't know, you guys seen that movie Wall-E, the cartoon? Watch it. Swear to God, watch it. Wall-E. It's that Disney movie with the little robot.
Little robot, yeah.
Yeah, I swear to God, you guys got to watch it, because that's going to tell you where this world is going. And it turned into, people got so comfortable with robot delivery, everything. They're all overweight and they never leave their lazy boy. You know what I mean? So that's where this world is going. So if any trend is going towards convenience and service, any way you can provide convenience and service to people so they can stay home and order everything, and telemedicine is big now.
Oh yeah.
You do it from your house, you know what I mean?
I was gonna say, I think it also depends on the market a lot, right? I think like California and like New York, like those markets are just gonna see a huge shift and stuff like that, just because of the like amount of people that are there. But I feel like in like more rural areas like Michigan and stuff, like, yeah, we'll still see it, but not so much, right? Because like everyone knows that you can like live anywhere. So like, I don't know, I kind of live in the middle of nowhere, but like as far as like California, like people don't have to live in like the hub to not take like 5 hours to commute back and forth to work, right? Because the freeways were so congested all the time. So I just think like those places probably will see some more drastic, but as far as like probably what we see here, it might not be as drastic.
I think the backfill to the cities will be singles and young people. The people with kids are going to stay out in the burbs because their kids are playing and going to good schools and they have green space and play dates at the park and stuff like that. But the cities and the metropolitan areas, they'll get backfilled, but it's going to be a younger crowd. You know what I mean? And anything to provide convenience or entertainment to a younger crowd, that's will be good for a city or the metropolitan areas. You know what I mean? So that's so. But the suburbs, the people are going to stay there if they can. No need to.
Anyone got any deals they want to throw out to the group? A wholesale deal or anything, Rob?
I got a
one going to Nate.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say actually, just to make the group more like cooperative. So on this call, if you look, Thomas Colts, I don't want to like call him out, but anyway, he's on here. He's actually looking for some properties to like kind of like Burr around this area. He's got some properties in different states and stuff, but I maybe reach out to him, or opposite Thomas, you reach out to Rob. I'm sure there's a few other wholesalers on here. But Thomas probably, yeah, you can speak up, Thomas. Just if you say kind of what you want and have a couple people send you their contacts, because there are a few wholesalers on here.
Yeah, basically looking for anything I can burr right now. Never done one before, so just ready to take a look at what's out there.
Yeah, but just so you guys know, like he is like a real buyer. He has properties in other places. He was just trying to get something more local. So if anyone wants to shoot him a message or just whatever, make sure you guys all throw your stuff in the chat so people can pick up your info and you message each other after this or whatever.
Yeah, where's your building in?
So north of 9 Shaner, so Warren, 6,000 square feet, and it's 5 addresses. 3 of the units have bay doors. One of them has double, bay door on both sides, to drive through kind of situation. One of the units is an office. Set up for a billboard. Like there's a big billboard mount on there, which the traffic's not very high there, but you could put a big cash for homes sign out there or something like that. What else? Big, pretty big lot, big vacant lot, a lot of ground storage, outdoor cold storage possibilities.
What's that cost? Like 50?
I'm sorry?
What's that cost? Like 50?
No, so 300. Yeah, we got that up for 300. Well, it's not up anywhere. I have like a 10-foot sign out there with my phone number, for sale or lease. So I've had offers for 265. I've had offers for 250s and 275, and I've had a million people trying to lease it. I'm trying to sell it before I lease it, but
do you own it?
Yeah. So I can make a deal. I can get creative. I can do owner financing. I love owner financing. I've got 3 houses that I've sold on land contract right now, and I love it. So yeah, if anyone's interested in a building, for you guys, I think it's a little too far south, and it's a little more industrial. But a place with like a nice storage spot with the bay doors would be cool for the management company.
Yeah. Well, if I can rent like the other half of it and make good money and I'm sitting in it for free, I could probably make something work.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you could get I think you can get between 9 and 1,200 per unit, depending on which, some of them are bigger, have more amenities. Some of them are smaller, but it's basically a shell. It's cleaned out. The roof is all done and repaired. I don't know. It's an interesting building for sure. You can't grow marijuana there. It's not green zone. Some people still think they can because it's 5 addresses and they can do whatever. I don't get into all that stuff, but I'm just telling everyone you can't do it because I don't want to deal with those people. So yeah, if anyone's interested in that, I put my email and my cell phone in the comments. I'm definitely interested in these, some off-market flip opportunities. No Detroit. I don't do Detroit. Try not to send me Detroit. But Macomb, Oakland for sure. Mostly Macomb. Do a lot of Macomb. So buy my building.
Google.
I had one more thing to say. Theo, you might get a kick out of this. I kind of want Tony to hear it, but about saying no to people. I wanted to ask him if it's okay to say no. So me and Theo probably have our Facebook followers are probably 90% the same. And I've had people ask me things on Facebook and I say no, but ask Theo. So if Theo's getting any of that, I always do that because I think it's funny.
Throw the ball over. Okay. It's a good way to say no, right?
Yeah. I
Delegate.
didn't know if that was okay or not. I do it all the time. It's hilarious.
Is that why I'm getting people we went to high school with that are bummed asking me all this dumbass shit?
Yeah, I swear to God. Oh, it's so funny.
Oh,
my bad. I had to do it though.
That's awesome.
Did Elliot hit you up?
Hey, we're recording.
Oh yeah, he's fun.
I've got a real quick question. I don't know if you ever had the situation I was working on a property that I had